Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our webinar in International Research Academy. I'm gonna be asking you first question. Can you hear me all, guys? So everyone can hear me? All right. So my name is Abdul Hakim, and today we're going to be talking about the English language in the Algerian context with our beloved teacher Mr. Nacer Eddine. مرحبا بكم في المعهد العالي للعلوم. اليوم راح نهضر ان شاء الله عن اللغه الانجليزيه في السياق الجزائري مع الاستاذ نصر الدين. الاستاذ نصر الدين هو our head teacher of the International Research Academy, which is a department in our university. He studied in Turkey at Fatih University, graduated in 2014. In England. المعهد العالي للعلوم كنعاود جبل حنكون معرض العربيه في عام 2019 من وزاره التعليم العالي. عندنا 11 اختصاص في 4 ميادين. الاختصاصات هذو مقسمه الى 4 ميادين: بين ميدان التقني، الميدان القانوني، والميدان الاقتصادي، والميدان العلوم الانسانيه. في نفس الجامعه عندنا ديبارتمون تاع اللغه الانجليزيه ولا الامتحانات الدوليه اللي عندها تجربه من 2010. بدات يعني العمل تاعها من 2010 الى حد ساعه. ماذا راح تكون ان شاء الله الرحله تاعها مواصله عليها الاستاذ نصر الدين. هو كما كنت نقول، المعهد العالي للعلوم اللي هي جامعه صفاء ولدت عام 2019 مع الديبارتمون تاع اللغه الانجليزيه والامتحانات الدوليه اللي صافي ديال 2010. We've been working on the international exams for 10 years, and we worked on the IELTS exam, SAT exam, GRE exam, and DOS exam, that are exams that allow you to study abroad. But our main target is English language, since English language is an international language, it's a science language, and so on and so on. What we always like in our 10-year experience was study on English language in the Algerian context. Alhamdulillah, now our teacher, Mr. Nacer Eddine, will be dealing with today. I will just remind you that this webinar will be targeting the English teachers. So if you're not a teacher, it's going to be really difficult for you to follow us. Still, you can follow us. We can hear your opinion. If you have any questions, you can write them down in the comments, and I'll be guiding them to Mr. Nacer Eddine. Hello, Mr. Nacer Eddine, are you with us?
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm Nacer Eddine Alouani, head teacher at the International Research Academy. And I'm here, inshallah, to walk you through this presentation, which I called language teaching in the Algerian context. You will see that this training targeting teachers in some part, but as well, it is intended to everyone, to students if they want to contextualize English language learning, and to professionals, and to whoever is concerned about language learning in Algeria. Let me start. So I believe, first of all, that every English teacher should always start learning or teaching after obtaining these 3 sections and getting the hang of them. So knowing the context, if a teacher knew the context that he is in, so of course our context is Algeria, so knowing English teaching in Algeria and knowing how Algerians or the language quest in Algeria, so what languages do Algerians speak, and what that has to do with the overall learning process. Second thing is knowing him or herself. So a teacher should know him or herself. So learning about the personality types, learning about how to manage his or her energy, time management. All these are key elements for a good teacher. The third part, or the third section, is knowing the student. So if you knew your student, your target, how to deal with a brilliant student as well as a low expectancy student, how to manage your classroom, how to motivate learners, and how to maintain a good communication between your students. This is really important, I guess. The fourth part, the fourth section, is knowing the field. Yeah, some consider this one as the most important one, because if you knew your field, sorry guys, just a second. Okay, so I think now everything is all right. Okay, some technicality issues. Now the screen that I was reading from is shared with you. I mentioned knowing the context, knowing the teacher should know himself or herself. Then I mentioned knowing the student, low expectancy student from high expectancy student, motivating learners, maintaining a good communication. The fourth one is knowing the field. So this considered, as I said before, is the most important one, because if a teacher graduated or got a master's degree in English didactics or English literature, or if he is a proficient in English as well as getting a CELTA certificate or a TESOL certificate, all these qualify him to be a good teacher because he knows teaching approaches, he knows how to plan a good lesson and how to assess before, within the lesson and afterward. Yeah, so this is only an aperçu about the whole thing, but what I'm going to focus on today is knowing the context only. Yeah, I think this is referential. This is very important. I surfed the internet searching for something done in this issue, but I couldn't, especially when I'm talking about the North African region and precisely Algeria. So let's go and state some facts, some of the obvious. Look at the question and try to answer with me quickly. Who learns English in Algeria? Who are English learners in Algeria? And of course, you might agree with me that we have children. They learn it in their English, in their curriculum. So it's, as you say, it's mandatory in Algerian system. Everyone has to go through the system from middle school. So that's here. And for adults, we have various aspects or various reasons. The first one is traveling. Yeah, for whether it's tourism or business, English is required. Second reason is for studying at foreign university. It's always one of the criteria. Even if you got accepted without English, when you get there, you have to pass a certain exam to qualify for the university. We have joined in an internship program, yeah, which means a short period program as an exchange, working in an international company, whether in Algeria or abroad, especially here, I mean, especially Algeria, especially in the oil field. Using social media or chat rooms, yeah, a lot of people got motivated to learn English just because of that, so it's important. Getting involved in an online gaming, yeah, I'm not really involved in that, I don't know, but I hear everybody talks about PUBG and everything, so I think it's a thing now. Living in an English-speaking country is also another factor, an important one for immigration and for some people. Second question, which varieties of English do they learn? So what are the varieties? The first one, it's general English, which is taught in language centers. When you go to language center, you'll find all aspects of English are taught. Yeah, all skills, 4 skills plus grammar. So this is called general English, daily use. Then we have ESL, which is English as a second language. This is taught in private schools. What is English as a second language? It's when some people, they start learning English from primary school, like we see in some private schools in Algeria. And there you find pupils master English. Then we have EFL, which is English as foreign language, public schools. So we all went through that. So in public schools, when you start learning English, starting from middle school, so it's your foreign language because you have Arabic, then you have French as a second language. So third language is always considered as a foreign language. Then we have the ESP, English for specific purposes. And here we have the university field, yeah, because we have variety of specialities in that, like the AST, English for Science and Technology, AAP, English for academic purposes. Then the business English. Business English, or generally, is in languages centers as well. And it's for professionals and for people that they care about indulging in the Anglo-Saxon business sector. Okay, so who teaches English? This is an important question, and I'm intending some of you teachers, right? So who teaches English? Tell me about yourself. Let's see this quotation from a teacher, yeah, just like me and you. He said, I've come to a frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, and the child will be humanized or dehumanized. Such powerful words, right? So you see your role? I think that's the role of the teacher, exactly and precisely said, just like a surgeon. It's very important because you are tackling certain parts of the brain or human brain or personality that will stuck there forever through all the life of the human being. Yeah, let's go back to this question, who teaches English? So first category, we have teachers that they are proficient in the target language. They speak English professionally, fluently, and they are professionally prepared as a language teacher. They acquire really good certificates or training in the teaching field. Where do we find such teachers generally? We find them a lot in the English-speaking countries, example, the UK. Then we have the second category. You find them professionally prepared as language teachers, but not proficient in the target language. Yeah, he studied, he got the master's degree, or but you find that teacher, he lacks the proficient level of English, yet is considered professionally prepared because he has got a CELTA or a TESOL. This is the Algerian example, right? Most of us are like that. The third category, proficient in the target language, not professionally prepared as a language teacher. We see this in advanced countries, overpopulated like Nigeria or Egypt, where English is a second language, or most people speak English fluently. But I think Nigeria example is better here. Because they don't have a certain, training, strong training for everyone. So a lot of teachers are only proficient in the target language, and they learn by time teaching. The last category you can imagine, not professional prepared as a language teacher and not proficient in the target language. Which country do you guess? Netherlands. Yeah, it's Netherlands. So of course, this category is the worst among the 4 categories. Is someone that improvises in both fields, in the language side and at the same time in the teaching profession, as profession. And by the way, we have this category in all other places that I've talked about. Yeah, when in the time of need, you find some teachers from that category. Okay, now we talk about the Algerian English time frame. As you know, in Algeria, in our schools, we have a specific time frame that the government follow, and it changes a lot by time, but this is generally the time for the updated time frame. From age 6 to age 11, students never confront English. I'm talking about public schools, yeah? Then we have, for 7 years, students speak or study English in the curriculum. Yeah, 4 years in the middle school and 3 years in high school till age 18. So this is the time frame for English learning. And if we talk about the amount of hours students study, so the time, I think it's 8 months. So people start studying from September 15th to May 15th. This is the educational year, so 8 months. That's approximately 30 weeks of studying. In these 30 weeks, when we talk about the primary school, middle school, first year of middle school, second year, we find that students study approximately 100 hours of English language, and that's equivalent to the European framework. I'm going to talk about that. But when it comes to the middle school and the high school. The high school, second year or first year of high school, also it's 100 hours. Then the fourth year and the last year, baccalaureate year, it's 120 hours, extra 20 hours for the student. Yeah, so from the Algerian framework, I got this information. So the first year in middle school, pupils can ask and answer questions about themselves. This is the global objective after the end of the year. Yeah, and the level that they should reach is equivalent to the European framework of A1, starter level. By the end of middle school, grade 9 or middle school 4, pupils can maintain short conversations about themselves and their community. And this is equivalent to pre-intermediate level. At the end, in baccalaureate, so pupils can carry on a conversation on current events and contemporary issues. And this is equivalent to intermediate level. Yeah, so as you see, it is intended in the Algerian system that students starts from starter level and in 7 years reaches the intermediate level. This is the interval in the Algerian framework. Okay. What about the educational system of post-independent Algeria 1962? So after 1962, a lot of changes happened in the educational systems, if you agree with me. So the first thing happened was the objective. Yeah. Nowadays we're talking a lot about the promise, the best, the vow that Shuhada died for. So the aim was to build a national identity. So imagine a country that was shattered after war, people were bewildered. Then there was the aim of creating certain national identity, who we are. Yeah, we are Algerians. So prestigious place to French, of course, because the elites were speaking French, and that was the only possible spoken language in high school and higher education fields in the French period. So it was a must back then. In 1971, the Arabization process started, with the policy of closure. So Algeria tried to Arabanize the process of education, the curriculums, and in 1976, with the policy of closure, private schools were abolished. Only public school, but the public school became compulsory. Education was introduced compulsory to all children, youngsters, and training Algerian teachers came to be. They were trained by some Arabic-speaking teachers from other Arabic neighbor countries like Tunisia, Lebanon, Egypt, Syria, etc. So this is briefly the picture of post-independent Algeria, independent Algeria, 1962. Now we talk about the learning approach in public schools. So if you are a teacher in public school, you already know that. You are using the competency-based approach, in the Algerian curriculum. And it's important approach because the focus is on successful functioning in society. How you deal with English, what is English? And the language itself is not something that would stay in the classroom, but it's for using in outside the classroom. So this is the focus of competency-based approach. And the students, it's called a student-centered approach because it gives more time, more space to students than the teacher. So as you see in the picture, illustrated picture, less us, more them. And it finds time for really communicative activities. This is the beauty of this approach. So you find a lot of activities in there, focusing on the focus of the teaching on the learner's need, and continuous and ongoing assessment. There is always assessment for the student and the teaching process. It is as well individualized student-centered instruction. As I said, student-centered instruction. And I have here a quote that I really like. It says, what the child is able to do in collaboration today, he will be able to do independently tomorrow. So it pushes to collaboration as well. Student has to collaborate with his peers and work collectively. So this is why this approach was intended in English teaching, and it is a modern one. So of course, I'm not here to argue whether it is applied 100% or not, but it is what it is. Learning approaches that are famous all over the world now. So the competency-based learning, is considered student-centered because it gives more space to the student, and the teacher is nearly invisible. He or she monitors the atmosphere in the classroom, and the students move freely, working in groups. That's the aim of the student-centered approach. And this actually is used generally in private schools. Why? Because the number is small in the classroom. So it's easy to manage and easy to handle the chaos. You will find a lot of noise, etc. So second one is teacher-centered, which is generally like present the lesson, then practice, then produce. But the teacher is the dominant here. In the front of the classroom, controlling the atmosphere. You raise your hand, you take the role. When I tell you to work in pairs, you work in pairs. When I move to another topic, you follow with me, etc. So it's called teacher-centered. And actually, this is used in public schools a lot. Why? Because the number in the classroom is huge. So most classrooms are overdense. You will find the plus 30 elements in the classroom, and it's chaotic. No one can control the whole number with competency-based approach or with a student-centered approach. So as you see here, we have a little bit conflicting things started to happen here, yeah? So in public schools, we have plus 30 students at the same time. It is required from the teachers to use a competency-based learning approach to assess students before and within the lesson and after the lesson, as well as, you know, use some activities, work in group, use some games, and all the chaos that would create for the teacher. Now we will talk about the new approaches that are emerging in the world, and Algeria has to follow after COVID-19 passes, inshallah. So the post-COVID, it's most probably that all Algerian schools would follow this approach, which is called blended learning. Blended learning, it mixes, as you see in the picture, between teaching in the classroom atmosphere and using internet. So the students study the whole lesson in the classroom, then they go home and they practice on what they have studied online. So they have some substitute activities in there. However, we have here flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is the other way around. So students would have all the lesson online at home, study it, or maybe work in groups. Then they go to the classroom and they practice and do some exercises. So this is mostly used in university atmosphere where students are mature enough to do that, and they learn the conference. When they go to the classroom, they apply. So they have the teacher when he is most needed. This is the importance of flipped classroom, and I think this is a brilliant one. It's the most appropriate one if we can manage to do that, of course. The last approach is online learning. This is 100% on the students. You follow certain curriculum, you have a database of information, and you go ahead. Online learning can be working with a platform, ready-made, you know, or working with a certain teacher in Zoom platform, etc. Yeah. These are the learning approaches that exist in the world of teaching English. Of course, there are others, but we care about these important pillar ones. Private schools in Algeria. Yeah. So I was talking about public schools, the public school atmosphere, the method that are applied in the public schools, and in the future, inshallah, we might see blended learning emerging. This is the case in private public schools, but when we go to private schools, we find that there are some private schools. I will give you an example of Elmia schools because I know them and I'm aware of their approach. They teach English from primary school. So pupils start learning English from early ages and they get used to it. Plus, when they got to the high school, they start to prepare for IELTS exam, international exam for accepting students, admitting students to universities or, you know, to work. So this is something interesting. We see it where in private schools, so English can be second language in this case in Algeria. Then we have a bigger number of private schools where they don't have the whole process of studying, but they provide some English courses. Yeah. Here I collected a number of schools and they are randomly set. I'm going to categorize the schools that we have in Algeria. We have a small minority of schools that they have international programs. Yeah, they follow certain international norms, international curriculums. They just bring them because they have the same title. Yeah, so these schools generally don't have issue with the curriculum because it is what is in there. We have another category of schools. They are Algerian schools. They exist only in the Algerian soil, and these schools are doing their best to create a certain Algerian authentic approach. So you find them working close with teachers, observing teachers, working with they have head of teachers, and they care about the pedagogy and they assess the process of learning. This is the case of IRACADEMY, which I would love to show. So I work here at the IRACADEMY, and this is the case in here. So we have teacher assessment. We have a way of trying to merge new approaches of teaching within the process of, daily process of teaching. Also, we have a bigger sphere of schools, and in these schools, what categorizes them is that they work in the English field, they have websites, they exist, and they are doing their best in English, but still they are not taking care of the pedagogical side. You find them good when it comes to administrative process, but when it comes to pedagogy, they don't have a really strict code of observing, assessing, training teachers, and so on. I will show you a big one. This is it. Yeah, this bubble that you see here is also in Algeria. We have huge number of other schools that are invisible, off the grid. When you go online, you search about them, you won't find them. But they are visible. Sometimes you see some banners and some posters here and there in walls, in tramway stations. So these schools generally are small, and they come with the mentality of business. It's a business-like, business-run school. They have no regard to pedagogy whatsoever. So bring the teacher, bring the book, combine them together and teach. Yeah, and the problem with these schools is that it affects a lot. You find a lot of people, considering that as English teaching, and they affect the market as well for the other schools. And the problem should be addressed. How? What is the solution for such schools? Well, the solution is providing Algeria with a national accreditation agency, just like we see overseas. Most prestigious schools all over the world, they got certified by certain national agency that gives certificate for quality education in the English teaching field. Whether it's England, whether it's the USA, European countries, Australia, all got such thing. In Algeria, we have to have certain accreditation agency that takes the lead, control these schools, and address this issue. And you know all that these schools, or private schools, some of you might not know, belong to the Ministry of Commerce in Algeria. So the Ministry of Commerce controls this topic, public schools in Algeria, private schools, I mean, in Algeria. And I think this is one of the source of the issue, because what can Ministry of Commerce do is send tax collectors and inspectors to these schools. Those are the only inspectors that they would show up. So of course, they would take care of the business side. And there is no pedagogy inspector provided. So I think the solution for this is if we transfer the file or the portfolio of private schools, I keep saying public schools. So this pile of private schools should be transferred either to higher education ministry or the Ministry of Education. Yeah, both of them. Well, the higher education maybe regarding the use of language in higher education and research. Public school, Ministry of Education regarding that it is concerned about creating the curriculum, the competency-based approach, and teaching middle school till high school. So they have this experience to deal with English content. Okay, that's a certain solution that I think would work. Now we should move on to the books that are used in private schools. So, of course, as I said, in public schools, we have the curriculum, government curriculum is used. In private schools, each school uses a different curriculum, which of their choice, of course, because there is no inspector, there is no something provided or forced on them. Before I talk about the books, I'll talk about Algeria. Algeria is considered a MENA country, which consists of Middle East and North African countries, all these called MENA region. And the name or the label was given by, of course, European countries. There is a problem in this name. Do you consider Algeria or North Africa as a Middle Eastern country? When it comes to the aspect of religion, yes. The language, half-half. When it comes to the culture, it's totally different. You know, even when you go to Gulf countries and you meet the people, they find you different from them, different from that context. That's why generally the MENA books, because these companies that you see here publish in-house, so we have Oxford University, Cambridge, Pearson, MM Publication, Macmillan, and Pearson. So all dictionaries, all these ones provide sometimes MENA books intended for the Middle East and North African culture. Generally, they don't work in Algeria. Yeah, they work only in the Middle East part. In Algeria, you find all the schools use international books, international version, and sometimes the European version of the book. And that is an issue because we are using something that is out of the Algerian context. And of course, because we didn't create such a thing as a North African book or curriculum, that's why we are obliged to use such thing. And in our school, IRACADEMY, we are using cutting edge. Cutting edge is the new approach that is also endorsed in the British Council in Algeria. And we have book suppliers in here in Algeria that they supply these books to the market, to the schools, I mean, to the web of the schools. And here I'm going to show you some issues that I find as a teacher while conducting teaching with this cutting edge approach. And look at the issues that students face, or the teacher as well. So in cutting edge, third edition, I'm talking about the third edition in the whole examples, starter level unit 9 now and then, there is this activity where it is intended to be interactive. Yeah, you put students in group and you ask them to match these information with the pictures. So generally it is intended to be fun because most they think that international students would know who is Chopra or Harper Bikram or Shakira or Rafael Nadal and where they were born, where do they live, what do they do. But for a lot of students, Algerian students, I find that they struggle with that. They find it somehow boring, yeah, because it's out of their context. And English should merge in the context and should be interactive and appealing. The topic should be appealing to the students to get engaged. This is one of the core rules that everyone would agree with me on that. Same thing, starter unit 10, we find a story of Vivienne Westwood, Queen of Fashion. She is a British fashionist. So the whole lesson was built upon her, the reading, the activities, and generally students find it weird, you know, and as a teacher, I always try to skip some part of this. Another example here, we have the life of Emilia Fox, and the students have to put some family members in this family tree, and there is this following activity here, where they give you a table with the male or female family members that you have to put in the table. This exercise or the activity starts with the boyfriend, and it ends up with a girlfriend. So imagine yourself teaching the students, you know, in Algeria, that might be, you know, a mixed classroom, and you start talking about the concept of boyfriend, girlfriend, and of course it will raise up some questions. What is that? And you find them the end of the day using them in their spoken language, and it causes a problem really. Another example here, we have here an activity in Unit 10, elementary level, Look Good. It talks about party costume, and there are some warm-up questions to the student. Which party costume do you like best? What costume would you choose for a fancy dress? So it talks about this concept of party costume, which myself as a teacher have never done. Imagine the students reading about this and looking to these weird pictures and, you know, explaining the concept and asking them to interact with you. Yeah, especially when it's afternoon hour and you find the students, you know, waiting for you to finish this bluff and go to another real activity that interests them. The other issue in elementary book, Unit 13, Live and Learn, we find the book talking about a ballet dancer from Colombia, who's called Fernando, and the activity is a video. Yeah, students start to watch this video of this guy, you know, doing ballet, talking about how he felt like from his early childhood in love with ballet dancing and everything. So most students have problem with that, and it raises some questions like, would you like to be a ballet dancer? Is ballet dancer for girls or for boys and everything? And it's out of the question for a teacher like to deal with that hassle besides learning or teaching English. Here we have another activity. It talks about special days in pre-intermediate Unit 4, special days. And you find, of course, this table talking about Easter, Halloween, International Women's Day, Christmas, and you have to explain to the students, you know, these special days. And the question was, which days do people celebrate in your country, as you see here? And you don't want, half of the activity is off the grid, so they have to talk about only 2 or 3, and they start talking about Eid and everything. So it's better for us to have something targeting Algerian students, despite rather than dealing with this tiring activity. Here we see another activity. Yeah, so it talks about fashion or street fashion. Street fashion in pre-intermediate Unit 5, Your Look. So it raises up some questions here. Yves Saint Laurent, one of the greatest fashion designers of all time, was born in which country? A, Algeria, B, France, C, Italy. Already, so we have Algeria here, as you see. It's progress as well. So here we see the activity giving some questions about fashionists all over the world and asking students to answer. Generally, you find students disconnected because they know nothing about these topic. Maybe one student or two in the classroom, but the whole classroom feels lost. Plus, this activity is provided as video. There is a video. The whole activity is a video about this street fashion in England, and a woman that tries to to edit, works in a magazine as an editor and tries to collect from the street some weird fashion. This activity in pre-intermediate, the best thing, it's called Love It or Hate It. It talks about some weird stuff, things that you either love or hate. There is no middle in there. And the examples here, the first one is tattoos. Are tattoos art or not? Yeah, I for one don't like to indulge my students in such question, because a lot of students start saying that tattoos are not art, are not something else, are haram. Where is this option here? Yeah, so the other question is talking about poodles, sweet and pretty or just stupid and ugly. And do we have such culture? I don't know. The three, talking about opera, some people's ideas perfect night out, other people's idea of nightmare. Most students haven't experienced the opera, so it's something new to the context. Let's not talk about the opera, the cinemas even, let alone the opera. Cinema, some students here, or most students have never stepped in a cinema, and they have never got that experience, so they know nothing about the opera. And the other example here, we have fish and chips, delicious or disgusting. You find students lost. What is fish and chips? How could we combine that? This is a fast food that you find everywhere in England, similar to shawarma in Algeria. So if you give example of shawarma, maybe that would be logical for an Algerian student rather than fish and chips. The next example is about flashbulb memories. Well, the concept of flashbulb memory is a memory that strikes and it's so vivid, it stays in your mind afterward, and it never leaves your mind. You might even have some idiosyncratic detail that you can never forget about that memory. So in this topic, you need to talk about some memories that they are so striking that you cannot forget. But the examples they give here is the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the first person on the moon. So as you see, all the questions are Americanized, or the memories are Americanized. Of course, it depends on the video. There is a video of people talking about their experiences, the first time they heard these stories. And it would much better be if we talk about flashbulb memory in the context of Algeria. So when you say to people, when you talk to people about Algeria winning African World Cup, in Egypt, for example, or give an example of the Iraq or anything that is a flashbulb memory, and students would find them like thriving, interacting with you in the classroom, rather than these, tasteless topics to them. Next example is about the surprising achievements of some famous people. As you see, these famous people are Europeans, Westerners, I mean, and none of them is Middle Eastern or North African or Asian or wherever. So you find students know nothing about these famous people, yet they have to be surprised according to the activity, the surprising achievements of famous people. And they never find them surprising. They look, okay, has published best-selling book, who's that? All of them can be possible. This is what happens when you give an activity or you design an interactive activity from some context, you chop it off, you put it in another context, it would never be surprising to them. Next example from intermediate book, Real Lives, talks about nominating someone for an award. Yeah, and this award is called Inspirational Award, person that inspires the students. And the people that they were put here, all Europeans, of course, Westerners. There is only one Asian person, is called Aung San Suu Kyi, and she is the governor of Burma, Myanmar. And you know what she did to the Muslims there in Arakan. But she's put here as an inspirational award. She did remarkable, she helped others, and she inspired people to follow her example. Yeah, so it's a conflict really for me as an Algerian teacher, which somehow I have I'm proud of my identity. Go and teach my students about Aung San Suu Kyi, or even consider her as a choice in certain award like this one, or Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. So this is not our model, I guess. Next example from intermediate as well, in Unit 8, Real Lives. In this activity, which is called My Big Night Out, it talks about night out. Night out, which is a concept that is absent maybe in Algeria. Go in for a night out, having activities outside your house, go clubbing, as you see here in example, go to a bar, go to a karaoke bar, and you have to explain to students in a tedious way these things, and you find them disconnected, not with you when explaining that. Okay, so I hope you got the, what I mean, you got the idea and the issue with this thing. So what is required from us? What is the solution? Yeah, I would really love from you as well to think about certain solution. As for me, I would propose creating course books. So Algeria is big, vast. We have a lot of brilliant minds, people that they have the abilities capable of creating some course books that are authentic, they are respectful to our identity and to our culture. So we need books that they get some articles from this list of brilliant Algerian writers. Okay, so we would have a better dose of authenticity in our books. Of course, translation to English is never an issue. You can translate it to elementary English, starter English, advanced English, and you can have all that done. It's possible. Also, we need a course books that helps for studying local history, local Algerian history, history of some cities in Algeria, for a better sense of realism. Yeah, when I hold a book holding a lot about, I don't know, Florida, talking about New Jersey, talking about Manchester, you feel like students feeling themselves totally detached from the reality. Also, we need courses that compile lists of older citizens as resource people for a better dose of wisdom. Yeah, Algeria has great, minds, brilliant people through history, and they deserve recognition. We need some interactive activities, whether it's grammar or listening or speaking about the lives of these people, about their achievements. We can create even games about, knowing them better. Of course, here I'm not advocating, please don't understand me that I am advocating for a policy of closure. No, we need a balanced image. We can go internationally, yes. We can present an image that consolidate with our ethics, and it shows Algeria in a better way among the world, and we can create such curriculum that shows an image that is balanced with our ethicalities, moralities, and principles. So yeah, who is for this? Who can help me create such a course book? And I know that there are a lot of Algerians working on that, thinking about that. I saw some blogs, vlogs, videos on YouTube of some teachers talking about that. And I would really love to have a collective mind, think tank, group, community that works for initiating such brilliant project. Yeah, I'll stop here, and I would really love to have some questions, if any, is in your head, guys, about these topics. So if you have any question about the curriculum, the curriculum in public schools, which is a competency-based approach, the change that's happened in there, or you have problems, especially about the private sector, go ahead and tell me about it.
Yes, Mr. Nacer Eddine, thank you very much for the presentation. I was well placed and was well detailed. Thank you very much. I think we should read some comments here from teachers, following teachers. Here we have And then I have some questions that I believe that they will add to the presentation. First comment is from Miss Amina Hamdoud. She's saying teachers have to adapt activities, not just using what they find in the manual. Before that, Miss Amina Hamdoud talked about the principles that were made in the put in the presentation, that in terms of theory they exist, but in terms of practice we don't see them. I think that's a huge issue that I think I can transfer into a question. How we talked about the English language for the public schools, and you said that students in Algeria start in starter level, and by the end of the baccalaureate, which is high school, they end up with the intermediate level. That's theoretically correct, I guess, but what do you think? Is it exactly the same? Is it practically? In reality, when we have a high school student going to university, is he a real intermediate, or is it just the books?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hakim, for the questions. Yeah, if I understood correct, the first question was about following the whole thing in the curriculum rather than changing and taking the lead and manipulating the thing. Is that all right?
That was a comment actually. It was not a question. And
it was a comment.
She was
exactly. Yeah, it was a really important and well-noted comment. Exactly. But here I'm talking about some setting the norm. Okay. So of course, teacher can do that, but without any improvisation in a certain country, there should be a certain norm set to all teachers. We should minimize this process, because you can find some teachers that they undermine the curriculum 80%, others 10%, and you end up with all aspects of teachers and different methods, and that shouldn't be the case. There should be a certain curriculum directed to teachers, and then there would be a minimum of modification, not the whole thing, especially what contradicts to our ethics. Thank you. And the other thing, why our students, Algerian students, that they pass through the public school, they end up not mastering English, even though the curriculum says that they should end up intermediate. Yeah?
Yeah. The question is it true? Are they practically intermediate or just theory?
If yeah, of course. Technically, there should be the case. Now, we cannot. We should have a certain poll or percentage to know exactly the percentage of students that they are really intermediate. And actually, teachers of baccalaureate are who to decide. Yeah, among the classroom, they can know the percentage of students that they are real intermediate. But I think the number is low. The number is low, and most students end up barely good pre-intermediate or elementary. And the issue here is, I think, is the split units or the split English is done. So 3 hours only per week is not enough for students to concentrate in the load of English. English or all languages require consistency, requires much bigger time given and much bigger attention given to.
All right. There is a question that provokes itself, which is the question of identity. We talked about the Algeria being in the MENA region or not being in the MENA region, and then when you went into the book with the examples, the examples that they put in the book, that they are not related to our identity. If we are not in a MENA region, in which circle are we? Are we in the African region, or are we a unique circle that we have to create for ourselves with our unique history? Then when we talk about that, okay, let's answer this question and then go to the second.
Okay, so well, the issue is that with the MENA region is that when you go to these books, you will find them talking about totally different traditions from us. You know, even the outfit that you see in the books, you see the abaya, the shmar, and you see, you know, the black, you know, dress for the women, and the culture, the music, the food. And when you bring them to Algeria, it's a weird context. It cannot touch with the Algerians unless you are, you will be accused of introducing, you know, a different hybrid identity to Algeria, and you end up doing more harm than good, you know, dealing with Westerners than dealing with Easterners. We need North African culture. And why the books are all about Middle East? Because these countries generally are second, they speak English as a second language, that's why.
So what are we? Are we African?
Okay.
Are we mixed between Africans and...
Yeah, I think North Africa has a unique identity. Yes, we can be a Maghrebian country, North African country. We have a lot to do with Tunisia, Morocco, then to do with Middle East. Yeah, so we have a certain identity, especially we have, you know, a mixture of languages that we share a lot with Tunisia and Morocco, for example, which is, you know, Tamazight, French, and Arabic. So when you add to the equation English, or you talk about the styles of music, the accents we speak, the traditions, the architecture, you find a lot of examples that can be included in these books, can be interactive, appealing to students, and that's the case.
Miss Ilham, a teacher here, Miss Ilham, raised the subject of contextualization of the book.
Again, sorry?
Which was an issue with the contextualization of the book. A really long word, apparently. You talked about that, where we had the issue of the cutting edge, where they speak about the Western, and then you spoke about the solution, which is creating something for us, creating something for the Algerian context.
Yeah.
We have, I guess we can put this as a long-term solution. How about a short-term solution? You know,
good question.
A teacher is not independent in his school. There's always the administration on the other side where they ask him to apply the whole book. So it's always an issue for the teacher when he goes into the class, or she goes into the class, that she needs or he needs to apply the whole book, which is asked by the administration. At the same time, it doesn't go with the culture. What's the short-term solution here?
Yeah, exactly. So the short-term solution is finding a way in the middle, which is having a committee that controls pedagogy and observes, trains teacher on how to chop off parts of the book, and, you know, a policy in a school to forbid some parts, and to have protocols with the teachers on how to teach and conduct the process of teaching. So, but the problem with this one, you know, is that each school has different philosophy, different background, and you end up with a variety of approaches. Some of them may be harmful to the community, but you have nothing to do. So parents won't know. They will take their children in there and they get poisoned by certain aspects of or some ideas. But again, that's the only short-term solution. There is another one, as I told you before, the agency. Algeria has to create accreditation agency. This can be a short-term solution. This agency will do the role of controlling instead of the schools. They will come and observe the pedagogy for these schools as well. Yeah, I would love if there is only one question to carry on.
Yeah, I know that we still have some details to
okay.
go in the
Good. So we will leave them for later. Let me carry on with the...
I'd like to hold on to tell you that. Let's continue with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, okay, thank you. So the second part of this presentation is going to be about language quest, the question of language in Algeria. It's a topic that is full. It's a field of minds, you know. It's so dangerous, and I was afraid to get burned, you know, discussing or talking about it. So I will mind my steps because it's sensitive, and I am young maybe to understand the sensibility of such a topic. But I sensed it from the articles I read or the books I read about the issue. So let me start about a small story about myself. I was born a boy from in a family that speaks Tamazight, okay, a derivation of Tamazight. It's a Mozambique language. So I spoke Tamazight in my early age until I reached 6 years of age. I went to primary school and I confronted friends speaking Derja. And I really believe that Derja developed to become certain unique language, yeah, from all aspects I'm speaking. Yeah, it's a hybrid, but it is a language. Let me give you a sentence and tell me what's the percentage of Fusha Arabic is in there. Yeah, so let's say راني رايح لمسيت دوكا. راني رايح لمسيت دوكا. Yeah, أنا ذاهب إلى المدرسة الآن. So when you look at these words, and from the first sentence to the second sentence, there is no connection whatsoever. So, okay, I struggled with Darja to deal with my friends, and the teacher was teaching me Arabic. Yeah, so I mixed a lot of words between Arabic and Darja. I speak Arabic Fusha with my friends and Darja with the teacher, and there was a lot of chaotic issues in my mind trying to figure out which is which. Yeah. Then the fourth year, French was introduced. I didn't even get the hang of Darja and Arabic, then French came up. Yeah. And imagine the torture in my brain, like, and of course you have the issue of the method, teaching method. So you got, you know, pile of grammar rules, you know, and you have to deal with them. And you are supposed to speak the language at the end of the day. Of course, when I went to middle school, first year in middle school, I started to learn English. Yeah. So look at this. English became my fifth language. Yeah. And this is not only my case. If you are a Mazir, you will deal with this whole process, 5 languages until you reach high school. But if you are an Arab, so you have 4 languages. Okay, exclude Tamazight, but you have Darja. Then you have Arabic, then French, then English. So at least all of us in Algeria, we are quadrilinguals. So we have 4 languages. We speak 4 languages. And I think this is too much. This is too much for youngsters. And we struggle in the inner side, we struggle as identity. You find a lot of Algerians have no language to write with. As someone said, Algerians speak all languages but masters none. Yeah, of course, this is too pessimistic, but what I mean here, and the point is addressed actually, is that you find a lot of people, they watch Macron speaking French, they might understand, but they cannot respond. They are handicapped in French. When they write on internet with Tamazight, they don't know which letters to use. With Darja, they use 7 and 9 and 3. In Arabic, they sound weird if they write in Arabic, and they cannot even write a coherent paragraph in Arabic. English, just don't speak about that. It's you know, a dream for most of us. So this is an issue, actually. When you, and it follows. You find a lot of academicians, they have no research papers. They cannot write papers, they cannot write books. Because deep inside, they have problem of languages. They won't admit it. Yeah, they have problems. When you want to write, in Europe, you have to deal with ideas only. Language, you are proficient in it. It's your first language. In Algeria, no. You have 2 topics to care about, actually 3. Pedagogy, and the idea and the language you're going to conduct your writing with. Yeah, so it's a big process. How are we going to fix that? I will let it as an open question. I have some propositions that they will show up later in the presentation, inshallah. Of course, I have an experience, international experience. I went to Turkey. I was so jealous when I saw youngsters speaking the language of the president. You know, they have no accent in Turkey, so especially in Istanbul. So he speaks the language that you can find in novels. So in bedtime stories, their parents read to them certain language they can understand from when they are 1 year old. I have never been read a bedtime story because there's no Tamazight story or there's a story of Arabic, only what my grandma or my mother, you know, improvised. Also, I was jealous when I went to England as well. I saw young pupils speaking English fluently, interacting with me. Yeah, and I was surprised at the beginning how youngsters can speak that well. Okay, the language quest. Here I set some administrative process in order, or administrative executed decisions in Algeria from post-independence until now. So from 1965 to 1970, Arabization was taking a role, a lead in Algeria under Boumediene, you know, rule. So we have also the Mehri project later in Arabization. So the aim of Arabization was to help reshape the identity of Algerians, translate curriculums into Arabic, teach in university with Arabic, and create some people that they have a certain language and certain identity with it. Of course, it didn't last long. Here in 1968, 1983, the Institute for Linguistics and Phonology was created. It was shut down in 1983. In 1990 till 1992, English was introduced to primary school, and it was a bold, you know, initiative, but it was cancelled. In 1996, the creation of the Supreme Council of the Arabic language in Algeria, and this Supreme Council, the role was to translate military documents, to translate, you know, governmental paperwork into Arabic because it was in French language, and still working on that. In 2001, Educational System Reformation Committee was shaped in Algeria. So it's called the Benzago Reformation in education. So, and they worked on the second generation curriculum. Yeah, so the one we know now, it started in 2001. In 2003, Tamazight was allowed in school. So here we can see now the uprising of Tamazight language. In 2003 as well, the National Pedagogical and Linguistic Center for Teaching Tamazight was created in Algeria. From 2003 to 2019, we have Ben Bouzid and Ben Ghabret executing the reformations of Benzago. There were two stages: the stage of, you know, training teachers, then the stage in Ben Ghabret, the stage of printing the curriculums, and you know, people realizing the nature of that. Then in 2016, Tamazight language became an official language of the country. 2017, the Algerian Academy of Tamazight language was created to translate documents into Tamazight, just like the Supreme Council of Arabic before. 2009, look at now, from 2019 till now, what happened? So now, in 2019, in the year of Hirak, we see that people were announcing that they are fed up with the French, and they are, and the government tried to take a side with the Hirak by taking some decisions in favor of using English in Algeria. An online poll about using English in higher education was announced by the Minister of Higher Education back then, Tayyip Bouzid, in July the 5th. And 87,000 participants participated. 94% of them said that yes to English in higher education and in research. So it was a surprise, actually, back then to have such thing. In 2019, also canceling French from professional promotion tests for teachers and professors. It was French was cancelled, and also in 2019, so the Minister of Education include English beside French in external recruitment competitions. In 2019 as well, the National Accreditation Agency for Languages was announced by Tayyip Bouzid, I guess in Sidi Bel Abbas University, and I don't know whether it was realized or not. I saw no trace of it online. And I would really love if it was the fact, if it happened, because such agency would give accreditation to private schools and private circle in English and other languages. In 2020, Minister of Higher Education announced that PhD thesis would be done in English only or solely. So as you see here, English came to be. I tried to do something, and I would really love, it's just improvisation, okay? It's not based on numbers, just the way I see things. I think Arabic has seen this curve. As you see, in 1970s, 1980s, Arabization was the case. Then it went down for now. French, in the other way, took the opposite side. So in the Arabization period, French was down, but it took the lead from 2000 with the reformation of education, Benzaoui reformation, where French was introduced to books, curriculum. So instead of using sin and in, X and Y were introduced. Then it went down a little bit at the hierarchy here when English became the reality. Darija as well. As we see here, Darija, so a curve, in the Independence Day, Darija was so strong with the Sha'bi and the authentic Darija, the conservative Darija. It went down, but now we see some leading figures in government talking about introducing Darija into the curriculum. And we see Darija a lot in magazines, in sitcoms, on TV, and it's something new, it's going on. Also English, Tamazight. Tamazight was always steady because it was always spoken in the shadows. A lot of people speak Tamazight in Algeria, but from the 2000 we see the curve going up with the introduction of Tamazight in Algeria. English, on the other hand, the 1990s, it's the curve, so a little bit of bumping in there, and then it rose up in from the 2000. A lot of Algerian generation started to realize the importance of English, especially with the open trade treaties of Algeria. So as I told you, this is improvised. I would really love if someone can create, or a laboratory can create something legit. Okay. I have problem with this topic. Language quest. When I read the article, I found Algerians fighting because of that. And this is really concerning. We have Malik Haddad, an Algerian writer, said French is a language of the exile. So he considers French, or he regards French, look at it bitterly. But we have Katbi Yassin said French is a booty of war. We conquered something out of that dirtiness, which is the language. We can use it in our favor against them. So as you see, I regard both options so sublime, so important, and so I totally respect their options and opinions. I would really love Algerians to consider the different opinions and options between them, not fight over our opinion, but without forgetting that France always has a sense of inferiority, superiority over Algeria. France regards us inferior. We see in the book Le Soleil ne se lève pas à l'Est, written by Bernard Bégolet, he was the ambassador of France in Algiers at the time of Charles de Gaulle, and Jacques Chirac. And he told him, you are an Arabisant, you speak Arabic, but you are forbidden from speaking Arabic in Algeria. You have to speak only French with them. And he announced that in his book. This shows how they see the topic as important in France. So we should see it as well. I got this, while I was reading articles about the topic, this struck me, an article in The Economist called "A Battle Over Language is Hampering Algeria's Development." And it is really, look at the flag here is getting ripped off because of the fight between the Algerian, diverse communities. The Republic's official language is Standard Arabic. Do you agree? Yes. But few children grow up speaking it. So they often feel lost on their first day of school. I felt lost. I felt really lost, and I couldn't even communicate with my teacher or to convey my simple needs of going to the restroom or drinking water. Berber, the tongue of perhaps a quarter of Algerians, was officially recognized last year, but no one can agree on which of its 6 dialects to teach. Yeah, and still even they cannot agree with which letter to write Tamazight. Algeria's French-speaking elite prefer their old master's lingo. The education minister advocates the introduction of a 4th language, Darija, which fusses the other 3 and is the mother tongue of most Algerians. I'm talking about the Darija here. An increasing number of Anglophiles want to wipe the slate clean with English. As you see here, the situation is really complex in Algeria, and it needs resolving. As an English teacher or as a language teacher in general in Algeria, whether it's French, Turkish, Chinese, you really need to understand the complexity of the situation, the vulnerability of our students or our pupils and how they are struggling. And a lot of them, they go to schools and they don't understand where the problem is, whether it is in them, in inner capabilities or outside in the curriculum and the teacher. And I believe it's not in the human being, in our students. It's exclusively in the system. I'm talking about primary school, but when it comes to middle school and high school, the personality of the human being gets shaped. Students are to blame as well if they don't put effort to the reality. Okay, I have some recommendations and I'll end up my presentation with. The first recommendation is that higher education requirements and curricular should be taken into consideration since the primary school. Yeah, from primary school, middle school, high school, university, we should have certain link in there because there is a huge gap between them. And there is a need for a transition period between compulsory education and the higher education stages in Algeria. And this is what we call foundation year, because when you look between these 2 stages, you see a huge gap. A lot of students, they feel lost in their first year at the university. When they go to the university, they are confronted with a Francophone teacher or an Anglophone teacher speaking fluent French or English, and he has piles of books to finish by the end of the week. They just give up. That's the simplest answer they can give, and they blame themselves. They feel lost because we don't have foundation year, which is widely known system all over the world. And I'm proud to announce that IRACADEMY has introduced foundation years or gap year or anisabati for the first time in Algeria in 2010, and we are still working in that. So we have students stopping the year of university, coming here, preparing themselves in 1 year in certain language, whether it's English or French or whatever language of study. Then they end up with IELTS or TOEFL or ITP or whatever exam. Then they go to explore their chances maybe abroad or even in Algeria with a better sense of confidence. Another recommendation is creating opportunities outside the classroom environment for daily communicative purposes. So imagine in Algiers, we have cinemas that showcase movies in English with English subtitle or movies in French with French subtitle. It would help a lot of students to get engaged with the language, to learn, to get interested. So we need some people to invest in this. And also what we call in Algeria the Diyar Shabab can be used for some activities for students and can be guided, presentation in English, activities in English that could help boost their confidence. Also, I think that it's time for government that introduced reading book in activities in schools. We need to have at least an hour per week for 15 days for reading books. The government should, put it a compulsory thing, and schools should help their students go towards reading because this would help give confidence in language as well as help for writing. Also, compulsory writing should be introduced in schools. Yeah, we should put more effort in writing because writing is the outcome of language, okay? It's the biggest outcome of language. If you know how to write articles without mistakes, it means you master grammar, you master phrases, the pattern, the notation, the coherence of ideas, punctuation. All language is melted in the article. The other recommendation is implementing approaches in curriculums shouldn't be dramatic and disruptive. We have this problem in Algeria where when a certain approach is introduced, the other one should be destroyed immediately. We don't have this accumulative process. Yeah, so each government has to deny or overdo the other work and start fresh, wipe the slate clean and start fresh. And this is a bigger problem because it's exhausting to everyone, even to teachers. And the government should consider, in introducing certain curriculum, should consider training teachers extensively before introducing it, then giving teaching, appropriate teaching approaches, not introducing student-centered in classes of 40 students. As well as evaluating is really important. Teachers should be taught how to evaluate their students, plus teachers should be evaluated in an appropriate way. Okay, not in a really known scheduled day for inspectors. Also, creating a national accreditation agency for languages is regularly considered like a must now in Algeria. The last one, I guess, is generating curriculums and content for language courses, for language course books that corresponds with our values and needs. It's time for doing that. And I would really advocate for that and hope that I could find some Algerian teachers who share the same vision with me. So I would end up with this conclusion. English teaching is 80% about the teacher. Believe me, even in 1990s, I was taught, there was a crisis in Algeria. The curriculum was corrupt. The system was not really, qualified to be good. But I had some really amazing teachers taught me back then. They inspired me because the teacher is everything. Look at this quotation. The very best teacher teaches from the heart, not the book or even the iPod or wherever. So if you are a good teacher, you can you can make a good impression. I advise teachers to use this book, English Language Teaching, The Practice of English Language Teaching, written by Jeremy Harmer. I think it's a really amazing book. It helped me a lot and it boosted my confidence. I understood a lot about English and I advise you all to obtain it and read about it. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your patience, and this is the conclusion. Back to you, Mr. Hakim.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. we have a lot of questions, although we have a lot of comments and questions. However, we are short in time. I'll tell this to the people that are watching us. This presentation will be uploaded in the internet, so you can have all the details you need in here. And I will ask for workshop. I noticed that the problem, the issue of identity is raising again and again and again in the presentation. I guess I'll ask people, teachers and specialists that are listening to this presentation and Mr. Nacer Eddine to have a workshop about this issue in IRACADEMY. Those who are interested can contact us or contact Mr. Nacer Eddine for that. There is a technical question from Ms. Samira Beck. I don't think we can answer that for now, but however, we're going to contact her. Mr. Nacer Eddine will contact you, Ms. Samira, and they will answer you this question. If guys, thank you for Amina Hamdoud and Sama Umani for their comments. Appreciate it. We will, if in case we need another webinar again, I guess the issue of language in Algeria and English itself is a huge subject, cannot be covered in one webinar. In case I think there will be another webinar covering another part of the language. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and hopefully we will see you in other occasions in our page. Thank you very much.
Inshallah. And I would really want to add that I'm going to send some documents to the teachers that have subscribed to the system, okay? I have some documents that I used for this presentation. I'm going to send them later.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think
Thank you so much. Goodbye. Take care.